In this video, I will talk about the tools that I call drawing assistance tools. And the reason I call them that is because they can't really draw on their own, but they can really help to improve whatever you drew already with the paintbrush or the pencil tools, or even with the pen tool that we will talk about in more detail later on. But let me show you first of all my favorite, the join tool. Now this is only available in Creative Cloud, unfortunately, but I will give you another technique that is almost the same, slightly longer, but will still give you the same result almost. But for those who have Creative Cloud, just select the join tool, and with this tool, if you need to connect lines, you just have to draw over them and it will connect them and also nicely smooth out the gaps. Now, depending how far these lines are from each other, this might work or this might not work. And also depending how close you draw over these lines. Now you can see already here, I found a gap which I can't join together. And I think it's going to be the same here as well. Yes, it's not going to join. While this one seemed like a bigger gap, it still manages to connect it. And even that one there. I want to just go back one step here and notice that although these 2 points could be connected with a straight line, it tries to follow the original lines, and that's what's amazing about the join tool, that it predicts how these lines would meet. So although it doesn't connect everything when you have some big gaps, it might not work on them. On the gaps that it works, it does an amazing job. And when I switch to outline view, which is Command or Control Y, we can see it is actually one connected shape. And we can even see the anchor points there. Now switching back to normal view with the same shortcut, I am going to show you what you can do in case you are using this tool, the join tool, and you encounter these tricky areas. What you can do first of all is select the white arrow tool, the direct selection tool, and just drag one of those points slightly closer. And now it has to work, yes, as I expected. Now that we fixed one of the gaps, it actually managed to finish the other corner as well. Let me go back a few steps and show you what happens if I use on these gaps the other technique, which is available in previous versions as well. So what you need to do is to select both endpoints, either with the direct selection tool or the lasso tool. And once they are selected, here in the options bar, you will find this option called Connect Selected Endpoints. When I click on that, you will see it generated the bridge between those two, so it connected them, and it will work really nicely everywhere. The only difference with this to the join tool is, it's especially visible here in the corner, is that it's going to just do a straight line. So the fastest and shortest way to get from one point to another. That might not be the best looking connection. So after that, you can always switch to other tools like the smooth tool and just paint over it slightly to smooth out those parts. It's almost like ironing out the creases. So you can always do this afterwards. And also here's another great tool. If you have a point selected which is curved, you can also turn that into a corner point. Up here again in the option bar where you have the direct selection tool, you will be able to switch between corner point and curve point. Now you have to make sure that you select completely the point that you wish to turn into a corner point. And that way you see now we have a completely sharp corner at the bottom. We could do the same thing here on the top as well, turn that into a sharp corner. So this is what happens when you join an object together, and now selecting it, we can press Shift X to swap the color, and now it's used for the fill of this object. But here's another tool that is useful to learn, and that is the scissors tool. Now with this one, you can be very precise and cut a shape into two. So let's just say I want to cut it here and then here. You see I added 2 points, and now this shape is cut into two. The difference between this tool and the eraser tool is that while the eraser tool cuts while deleting a portion, the scissors tool actually kept both sides completely perfect And I would be able to move it back exactly the way it was if I wanted to. Now here's another interesting tool. I'm just going to draw a line with the pencil tool, and I will increase the stroke size slightly on this. Then I switch to the path eraser tool, and with this tool you can erase the endpoints, or you can also erase sections inside the line. So I can very quickly erase different lengths as well if I want to. And although you have the dash line option for strokes, this could still be useful in some cases. And last but not least, there's another tool that can also be used to divide objects. This is called the knife tool. I like to think of it as the samurai sword of Illustrator, because essentially what it does is that you have an object, let's say this head here, and you want to cut it in half, but without losing any details. Now we've seen the scissors tool, which works fine on a simple object, but on a more complex object, which has a lot of details in it, you can use the knife as if you were using a sword and cut it into half. And then what I like to do is to switch to the outline view, which is Control or Command Y, then press Q to get the lasso tool, zoom a little bit closer, and try to make a selection of the half which you would like to select. Just like that. Then I press Command G to separate it, and now we can move it apart and see how we manage to cut it into two sections. So all these tools can be very useful when it comes to refining your drawing, but normally I use these tools while I'm drawing, so it's not like two separate stages. I constantly switch back and forth between these tools. Under the window menu, within Tools, you will be able to create a new Tools panel. I'm just going to call this Drawing Tools. And you can see it created an additional toolbar on which I can drag and drop all the tools I wish to work with. I would start with the pencil tool, so I drag and drop that there. Then I'm going to drop the paintbrush just underneath it. Then I'm going to put the blob brush in there as well. Then I will need the eraser tool. And then we can switch to the more specialized tools like the smooth tool, then also the join tool. And let's not forget about the shape builder tool. I almost always use this tool in every workflow, so I like to keep it available and handy. Now we can still switch into a 2-column mode or keep it 1 column. When you don't need your tool panel anymore, you can just close it. But whenever you need it, you can just go back and find it, and there you go. It remembered exactly the tools that we saved. Now don't forget, you can also customize the shortcuts. So for example, if you don't like the blob brush being Shift B, you can always customize its shortcut by going to Edit, Keyboard Shortcuts, and then from there under Tools, you will be able to find each of the tools. So blob brush should be here, Shift B, we can always replace it with something else. Now that we discussed these tools, it's time to learn about another drawing technique when you can draw inside existing shapes. So that's what I will show you in the next video.